Indeed, we've all encountered that scenario. You encounter a novel individual or someone you somewhat recognize. You commence with the customary hi, hello, succeeded by standard inquiries such as what's your occupation? Which department are you affiliated with? And following a brief exchange, an uncomfortable quietness ensues. I've experienced this numerous times, not solely at work, but in a spectrum of diverse social contexts, like meeting a distant relative at a wedding whom you haven't observed in years or conversing with an arbitrary stranger at a tavern. But what if you possess the ability to converse with anyone and never exhaust subjects to discuss? The quandary lies in the fact that we all harbor some degree of social unease, which influences our awkwardness. However, we exist at varying levels, and I personally progress to the more sophisticated stages without any shortcuts. Consequently, over time, I formulated my own 3 techniques to engage with anyone and evade awkwardness again. Well, at least most of the time. Initially, I faulted myself for being excessively timid, lacking assurance, and somewhat socially inept. Yet, akin to everyone else, I exhibited the precise opposite demeanor around individuals with whom I felt at ease. Thus, I questioned myself, what is genuinely transpiring? How can a single person manifest such contrasting personalities? What I discerned was that despite being an introvert, I don't possess dual personalities, and it wasn't even a matter of self-assurance. It was a deficiency in skill. I simply hadn't mastered the artistry of casual conversation. And just like any other artistic expression, such as learning a new musical instrument or composing poetry, engaging with people is a skill that can be cultivated with sufficient practice. Therefore, through years of experimentation and by observing individuals more adept than myself, I swiftly comprehended that there are merely 3 elements necessary to converse with anyone fluently and never deplete topics for discussion. And the most advantageous aspect is that you can implement these 3 elements almost instantly. What would be your reaction if someone uttered the following: I'm planning to play golf this weekend? You could either respond with, oh, that's fascinating, and then gaze into the void while heeding the sound of silence, or you could pose deliberate follow-up questions. For instance, where do you typically play? How long have you been playing golf? This will then naturally guide you to further probing inquiries like, do you participate competitively? Are you a member of a club? Now, you likely couldn't care less about golf, but firstly, this demonstrates that you are genuinely intrigued by what the other person has to convey, or at least that's the impression you're generating. And secondly, this eliminates any uncomfortable pauses and silences, and it also grants you the capacity to steer the conversation and direct it in any way you choose. Because when you truly contemplate it, a conversation is simply a sequence of questions and answers, and the individual who poses the majority of the questions is usually the one in command. But for this to be effective, it's crucial that you're posing the appropriate questions, and this is where the second technique comes into play. Now, the prevalent misconception is that to enhance your speaking abilities, you need to speak more. However, akin to great paradoxes in life, to refine your communication, you need to perform the precise opposite and actually listen more. This entails actively listening and engaging in nothing else apart from listening, because it's effortless for our minds to wander and commence preparing our response rather than genuinely heeding what has been stated, leading you to articulate something entirely irrelevant and off-topic, further augmenting your collection of awkward moments. But if you listen attentively, you can pose the appropriate questions and cultivate a fluid and more engaging conversation for everyone involved. As the renowned adage states, most people don't listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. Don't be that individual. There are already ample of those. The culmination of perfection occurs when you discover a shared interest. We instantly connect with individuals who possess similar backgrounds or interests as ourselves. Occasionally, this is quite apparent, such as both of you enjoying golf. At other times, it might be more challenging. But even then, with sufficient probing and by posing the appropriate questions, there will be something you both have in common. And once you identify that shared element, steer the conversation in that direction, and it will naturally progress. The reality is, there will be instances where the conversation leads nowhere, and there will be moments in your life where awkward silences will transpire. And if that does occur, simply learn to be comfortable with the silence. Ultimately, it's merely silence, and it will eventually pass. But by adhering to these 3 techniques, more often than not, you'll possess the ability to converse with anyone and never exhaust topics for discussion. But what if these techniques are just the beginning? What if mastering these skills unlocks an even deeper level of human connection, revealing hidden pathways to understanding and rapport that you never imagined possible? The journey to truly connecting with others might just be starting, and the most profound discoveries about human interaction are still waiting to be made.